Hey everybody out there, my name is Dragnix and this is Mute Crimson Plus. This is an old Xbox title that's been updated to Steam, hence the plus. It is $4.99 and it comes out on the Steam store today. But before I begin, I want to make sure you guys know that this key was obtained from the developer, so keep that in mind going forward. Now, Mute Crimson Plus is a platformer of the old sense. It's very much reminiscent of old NES platformers, and there's a lot of these nowadays. Now, one of the first things you'll notice here is the art style, and the art style is pretty darn good. Now, it's not the greatest of pixel art per se, but what really makes it is the animations and the color scheme. The animations are smooth. It comes together all like that ninja there pointing towards the way that I have to go, but everything just moves so well, it moves so freely. But it's also the stylized elements of it. It uses red, white, and black very well, but it also adds in a touch of color every so often. Like when you go here and check the checkpoint, you'll notice that it turns gold. It's very small details like that that really helps the game out. It brings elements of the platforming that you need to pay attention to right in front of you, and it's really good in that essence. Now, for a platformer, the controls here are pretty good. The controls respond the way that you want. You have full control of whatever you need to do with your guy here, and it's not to the point where you can make mistakes and, you know, not be punished for it, but there's enough play where you really feel like it is really playing to your strengths in terms of, okay, I know exactly what I'm doing here. Now, you've noticed here that I'm going through and just killing enemies and, you know, jumping from platform to platform. The platforming is pretty basic. This isn't something that's going to get an award for, you know, innovation or anything like that, but it is pretty solid in all aspects. Now, I will say the variety is probably one of the biggest downfalls here. While there is variety in the gameplay, it does seem repetitive in terms of you do have your specific, you know, kind of, you know, hazards that you have to deal with, but they don't really change that much. You'll change them over, you know, each mission and all, but in the end, it does feel repetitive at this point. Now, again, this game is $5, so I don't expect a huge amount of variety here, but I do expect a little bit of variety, and I would have liked to see a little bit more of that. Now, not to say the platforming here isn't fun. It is pretty responsive, and there is some challenge in getting like the extra coins or records. I think they're coins actually at the end of each level to unlock, you know, certain elements of the game in terms of like, you know, collectibles and things like that. But in the end, you don't have to actually get them. Now, you notice here that, you know, your basic skills, you got your basic jump, a double jump, and your sword, and that's about all you've got. And really, it keeps it down to basics, but for a good reason. Now, I want to show you this because I'm just gonna let this play. I'm just gonna let you guys listen to this. It's just one of those situations where it's obviously being translated in a way, like, I don't think these developers are necessarily foreign. I think this is purposeful, and it's purposeful and funny in the same right, where you're expecting sort of a bad action movie kind of plot, and in the end, it does work in this essence. These cutscenes only really happen at the start and the end of every sort of section of levels, but I do appreciate it. It actually gives the game a lot of sort of uniqueness and sort of value in terms of that. It's not something that you're going to take seriously. Obviously, there is not time for wasting. Of course there isn't, but in the end, it is sort of that comical sense that really does break the flow of, you know, sort of the seriousness of the gameplay. Yes, seriousness with ninjas and blood and everything like that, but more so the fact that it does sort of work for the themes that the game is going for. Now, other things, again, there's nothing really here in terms of the platforming that's really unique. I mean, this has been done before. A lot of these platformers have the problem of dealing with sort of the sort of market in itself right now being inundated with 8-bit platformers and 16-bit platformers. Now, I will admit, for $5, the gameplay here is solid. Although, the one thing I will say about it is, yeah, you're paying $5, and I wouldn't expect, a long experience. I'm about 2.5 hours in, and I'm about at the 6th world right now, which I believe there's either 6 or 7 worlds based on the Steam store page. And that, if you're looking for a longer experience, this is not going to be a game for you, because obviously I've been able to get through the experience rather quickly. Now, I have not gone out of my way to collect the extras in terms of those coins, so that will add to it. There's also a second mode, which is the original Mute Crimson mode. I have not tried it yet myself in terms of really playing through it. It seems to be the original Xbox version, or at least what seems to be that. So I'm not sure how much it will add in that case, but it does add a little bit to it. Now, what you've seen on the screen is pretty much what you're getting right now. When it comes to the 6 different levels, like I said before, variety is not necessarily the strong suit of this game. You do get hazards like this fireball portion of it and a couple of different enemies. And then we change over to a different set of levels here where you have a lot of spikes. The challenge gets ramped up as the game goes along. I think the difficulty curve is pretty spot on this game. The game starts off almost too easy but it is a good sort of introduction to the mechanics, and then it starts to ramp up the challenge, and a little bit and a little bit and a little bit, and it gets in that sweet spot where, yes, you're gonna die at the last levels repeatedly like you've seen here, but it gives that challenge where you want to keep on going. You feel like the game is lured you into like a false sense of security, but in fact it's just been ramping you up for this next section. And then once you get through a section without having without making a mistake or, having any problems really with the section, you'll feel like, you've really mastered the game. And it does a great job of, teaching the player without, holding his hand by, good level design, by, making sure that you are very patient, but also very quick. There are elements in the game like wind, which can really screw with you in terms of your timing and things like that, but also teaches you while doing it to be a little bit more patient, because you don't know when that wind is coming, and then when it comes, use it to your advantage. Now, to say that the platforming is necessarily the hardest I've had, no, not at all. I've had definitely different experiences in terms of more difficult platforming in question than this game in question, but it provides enough of a challenge, and I will give it that. Now, I did play this with the Xbox 360 controller in terms of the controls there. I did try the keyboard. It seems perfectly fine. I prefer the Xbox in platformers, that's for sure, but it's not like either of them couldn't work for this situation. Both of them have the precision that you need. Both of them have the ability to really get through the levels without really making stupid mistakes just because, you're not used to the controls. And I will say the rule set of this game in terms of keeping things consistent is very good. There's never a moment where you feel like they introduce a new element to you that really screws you up, it really changes the balance. Now, some people would say that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing, personally. And we have another cutscene here, which again, I want to sort of highlight the cutscenes because they're just sort of ridiculous in nature. Again, you're almost like a B movie or B horror movie almost, sort of dialogue and things like that, but it's done so well, honestly. The poorness of the writing is done so well, and I know that sounds weird, but it's going for that style. It's going for that style, and it does that perfectly. Now, boss battles, on the other hand, can be really hit and miss in this game. The first two bosses really feel like, I did Adventures of Pip rather recently, and I felt like the bosses were very similar to that. Now, you have bosses like this that obviously I think do a better job in terms of giving the player a little bit of challenge, where you have to, hit the enemy 3 times. Of course, the rules of threes, but in this challenge, you got the lasers coming after you. It makes you move reasonably and actually have to change up your strategy. The early boss battles, that's not so much. It's the exact same patterns, it's the exact same movement style that the guy never really changes, other than you have to dodge him for a little bit longer. This time around, I really feel like they got this boss fight right, but the boss fights in essence are very, very hit and miss. They are supposed to provide a different challenge for you in the middle of the game, and honestly, they do that, as opposed to platforming. Now, platforming still makes a huge difference in some of these boss fights, as you know, me jumping up here, realizing that the laser's coming for me. I gotta make sure that, you know, I don't jump at the wrong time. Learning patience, but learning patience, but also using that to my advantage. Overall, Mutant Crimson Plus is a good experience. It is definitely worth $5 if you're looking for a platforming experience. If you're looking for something with a lot of length, this is not the kind of game for you. And it's a very, very stylized game that very much plays off the sort of aesthetic that it's working for. It's not something that's going to blow away anybody in terms of a new experience, not at all. But in the end, it does enough, and I really do think for a $5 game, it is worth the price of admission, especially if you like, you know, going for those collectibles and sort of, you know, honing your skills. Because again, those collectibles, some of them that can be out in the open, but some of them you really have to work for in terms of, you know, precision, in terms of really mastering your controls. Also, you go to space. You know, what game is complete without, you know, going to space? All right, this is Dragnix signing out. I will leave my Steam review in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Again, I always like taking feedback to try to improve myself, so let me know in the comments below, and I will see you all later. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you like this content and want to see more of it, you may want to hit that subscribe button on the left-hand side. If you like this video and want to see more of this content, take a look at this video on the left-hand side as well. And if you've missed my last video, take a look at the right-hand side. Once again, thanks for watching, and keep on gaming.